I was getting ready to do the first couple bushings, the second wheel on both sides, and I had polished my pivots. And when I polished them, I thought this pivot looked a little bit bent. It looked a little odd. It's got a little bit barrel shaped or tapered on the end, and so I straightened it up a little bit. Feel like I got it straighter. Not positive it's straight yet, but anyway, this is where it goes. And I lined my thing up, my plate into my bushing machine, and I noticed it was kind of a wonky hole right there. It's not round, and you want to center it, of course. That it's got wear going off to that side, so I flip it over totally round on the outside. So definitely that pivot was bent. It was just putting pressure on one side. But anyway, I'll square it back up in the middle and go from there. This is the other plate that I'm going to put the opposite one on. I got my little centering point in here. These just slip in and out. I've got the bottom plate with a hole in it that's big enough that my bushing can go down through there, so that if it was longer, thicker than my plate, it would poke out on the front side and still be flush on the back. So I slip this in here, find my center point, bring the sides up. I always kind of go up and down a little bit because you can get it locked on where it's in a bind. This does not look level. Alright, so I'm centered in the hole. Take this centering out. Put my reamer in. And I know which reamer to use because I have this little plate and my ends of my pivots fit in this one here. So that tells me you look over here for your plate thickness, just like on a paper chart. Look at your plate thickness, come across, see what size bushing you need, and then it's got a little Roman numeral in the top there to show you what size reamer you need. So I'm using a 40 bushing on a 1.9 height, even though this is about 2.3. But the next height is 2.7, and I didn't want to grind it down, so that's what I'm using. Alright, the hole is cut, and you chamfer the inside, make it good and flush. This is my bushing. Make sure I've got the flat side facing me and the little well facing out. And I know it's the inside of my plate because there's a 17 on the inside of both plates. So, okay, that's my chamfer. I need my pusher, which is a little flat-based piece. And I just put it down and turn and press down, and it pushes it in until it's flat. No beating, no hammering on it. Easy on the joints. And this one's done. I already tried it with the plates together when I did the other side. Now I'll do it again when I do this side, because it's easy to get. Like the next one I'm going to do, when I try it in my little scale, it comes out one size on one side and one size on the other side. So it's probably, if I go with the smaller size on that one side, I'll end up having to ream it out some. But yeah, every time you do a bushing, put it back in between both plates, not just one plate. Make sure you got free spin. And that's spinning away. So I'm looking good there. Alright, on to this one over here. So now I'm working on the opposite side. I've done the front of the plate, but you always work this way, so it's the back. And it's spinning pretty good. not really free spinning, but not bad if I give it a good spin. But there's not really any end shake. It's kind of hanging up. It's clicking in and out of the bushing. So that means that's when you need to take your smoothing broach and make the hole a little bit bigger. This one was the one that measured a 40 on that side, a 39 on this side, so I went with the 39. But as you push it into the hole, it squeezes it a little bit, so it made it snug where it didn't want to spin. So I already did the smooth bushing and opened it up a little bit. And I would be happy with that if I had end shake, but I don't really, without a lot of force, have any end shake. So take it apart and just do your smoothing broach. It doesn't take very many turns, and it'll be spinning freely. I'm just giving it a little pressure and twisting at the same time. If you go too hard, too fast, you will get stuck and you will pull your bushing out. It won't let me go to the left at all. I'm having to turn it to the right. So there may be a little spur or something in there, I don't know, but I just keep twisting it on the way in and on the way back out. Now let's see what it does. Looks like it's spinning pretty freely on its own. Now we put the other plate. These plates really don't like going together. Oh, I've got it backwards. No freaking wonder. I'm looking at 17 and 17. I'm like, and that's the inside of both plates facing out. Okay. But anyway, they don't like to snap together at all. There we go. It's this one corner. Alright, so depending on how tight I squeeze it, like if you put the things on really tight, the nuts, that's what you're going to get. Not very much action. If you're just holding it in the middle and spin it, it spins pretty good. Same kind of hanging up problem. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. A lot looser. And I've got some end shake, so that's good. Doesn't have to be much, just has to be enough to not get in a bind. This is probably never going to be way over that way because that whole flat disc would be rubbing against there. So it's going to push more toward this plate. So as long as there's a little bit of room for it to move. On to the next one. The other matching hole to that one is the one that's right by the screw hole for the count wheel. So always double check those. There's always two holes right close together. On some movements it's really hard to get your pivot in the right hole. It's always falling in that one. If you get ready to bush this thing and you see threads in there, stop and double check yourself, because if you remount your screw hole, you're making a world of trouble for yourself. So like they say in carpentry, measure twice, cut once. Make sure you are on the right hole when you're lining up to make your cut. I wanted to show you an example that I've done the second wheel on both sides. Big difference in the spin, right? Sometimes it spins a little freer. So you think, oh, it might be alright, right? Compare it to one that spins freely. Not very free. And then here's the big test. Here's my end shake. Nice rattle up and down, no binding. End shake over here. Click, bind, click, bind, click, bind. So anyway, your bushing still needs a little more work if it's doing that, okay? Good job. Still needs work. Alright, a good bit of finagling and watching videos at the same time, entertain myself. I have it set up the way I want. This side's going well. I've oiled it. This side is shutting off. Gong, cuckoo. That one was stuck on the other one. Gong, cuckoo. My finger's in the way. Gong, cuckoo. Okay. So it took a bunch of taking it apart and putting it back together again. I set it up normally where the little cutout of the cam is straight up at 12 o'clock and the warning pin is about 5 o'clock. And put it together and test it and make sure it's shutting off like it should, going around. The lever falls into the cam, the pin hits against the front of the lever, and then once you get that part set up, then you have to check your 3 levers here and make sure that this gong is not resting on a pin because it puts a lot of pressure, and that both of the arms are getting tripped before it shuts off. So gong, coo, and coo, and that one had time to fall down. Initially when I had it set up, the pin wasn't in the right place for the gong, so I moved it. Then this arm wasn't falling. The last part, it was shutting off before the last arm could fall off of the pin. So I had to move it that way, back up that way, this wheel. So with everything put together and me putting this metal stick through here to hold all my wheels in place, I would open this side up. Spread the plates enough, like take this nut off, loosen that nut, and with this holding my wheels where I want them, spread the plate enough to slip this up, disengage it from the cam, and spin it where I needed it. Put it back in there and test it again. So it took probably 5 times of doing it before I got it shutting off where I wanted and the way I wanted. And once you check it with the lever that everything's working right, then check it with the front piece too, because if your hands don't trip it and make it work right, you're going to be taking it back apart again. So I usually will put pressure on the grate wheel and lift it enough that I watch my fan spin to put it into warning, and it did, and then I drop it and make sure everything shuts off. So it's only got to go up. Well, it's got to go up about right there to go into warning. And then I drop the whole thing and bend everything up. Okay, so now that I know the mechanism's working right, I will put the count wheel on and see if the count wheel shuts off properly, because then I know it's where I've put the wheel that's making it not shut off right. So that's the point I'm at now. And let's see, most important part is here where it has, that's the 12, the longest little space on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this first tab is 2, so it has to shut off and strike again and shut off before it gets to that first flat plate right there. So I think I will put it kind of here. Now I'll try it here. I'll put it on the It should go 11 times if I put it on this one. 11 times, 12 times, and then I can check my fine tuning of my 1 o'clock strike. Alright. There is a, oh, I'm missing something. Yeah, I gotta put that on there. Okay, I'm not ready to put that yet. I gotta put my little driving gear back on here and the pin back on it first, because that's what makes this lock into place. So, hang on. I cut a new pin to put in there and got that on. I've got this here. Just put it in. I think I probably am going to have to adjust it. It's all the way on the far side of this, but it's got a little hook on the end of it. Usually they're straight, so we'll see what happens when I trip it. It did fall down in there, and it's in the center of the slot, so I'll do 12 o'clock and then we'll see. Nope, it did at 12:30, so it fell too far to the left of the slot. I really don't like that bend in the end of it. I'm going to take that out, straighten it up, and see where we go. Alright, it did 12 for 12 o'clock. I did straighten the tip of that up some. It doesn't look like much, but maybe it's enough. There's one. Still pretty far from there, so I think it's going to do a half hour again. It did. And so this clock doesn't strike on the half hour. It did another one. Maybe it does strike on the half hour. That was 4. That would be 4:30. So I'm going to go all the way around and see if there's enough gap. If I'm off just one tooth, the gap will decrease as I go around, and it won't do the half hour on these other ones. So that'll kind of clue me in. I don't know if this clock does a half hour strike or not. Usually the older ones only do the hour, so we'll see. I went all the way around, and it did a half hour all the way around. So we're back to it just did 12, and I'm going to see if it does 12, 31, and 1:30 all in that gap. That'd be 12:30, 1, 1:30, 1, 2 o'clock. So I got one that does a half hour. Cool. It's oiled. I'm going to put some chains on it and put it on the test stand and let it run for a bit. Kind of got ahead of myself. I haven't put anything back on the front of the clock yet, but I was just checking with my redstone, smoothing off a little bit of grooves on these teeth, and there's your clue that it goes off on the half hour and the hour. There's 2 pins in there. If it only went off on the hour, it would just have 1 pin. So definitely got it set up like it is supposed to be. It's been on the test stand for a while. I've just got no pendulum on it, so it's running fast. And I started it at 6 p.m. and it's at 2 something. So it hasn't had any issues. Working like it should. And it's that bird post stand is so tall I can't even get it all in the thing, but it is. coming forward and going back. I put the brass chains on it that I have, and I'm gonna have to use the stainless ones that are painted black because they skip every so often. These don't quite fit. I thought they were the same size, but as it went around every once in a while, it would jump where it was missing a tooth. So you'll see it jump here in a second. And that's when the tooth skips, and the whole weight is falling until it catches on another tooth. So those chains aren't going to work. But other than that, everything's working good, and I'm going to be able to get it back in the clock. That's good. I'm still waiting for, I think tomorrow, no, I don't know when it's coming, sometime next week probably, the piano wire to make the new pendulum leader, since I don't want to use this one that's two of them soldered together. So I'll make a new one, and we'll go from there. Today I've been working on the case. I took the bellows, took the eye screws out of it, both of them, put regular bellows lift wire hooks in them. So then I had my 4 eye hooks to put back on this guy. So I've got 4 eye hooks back on here, matched it up to the case where the holes were on the top previously, where the wires used to be. Like so. And then I can put the nails back in the top. So it holds the weight in the center of the wood and not where he had it attached right at the very edge right there, like barely hanging on. And so these nails that are supposed to be here with a wire on them that goes through this hook goes into this part of the case, holds the face on. I went ahead and took the face off because I was trying to clean the case, and the animals were a little bit loose. The only way to get to them is the 2 screws on the back right here. So I took the face off, and I was glad that I did, because there was 1 screw in the top here. I know this is so big it's hard to show y'all all of this at the same time. There was 1 screw in the top on each side holding the top of this. One of them wasn't even in. There was a gap at the top, and then at the bottom none of these were attached. There was a nail and a screw. So that was all that was holding this face on, as heavy as it is. All the weight is in those carved animals. So I'm glad I took it apart to tighten them up, because I wouldn't have known that it was hanging by such little support. So I've cleaned this already, and I'm working on this case. And the more I work on it, the more aggravated I get, because these don't even go straight up and down. Someone's had the face off. There's a little circle drawn into this veneer, and it's over here, and over here it's underneath. They got the whole thing put up here crooked. And these I thought were nailed on because I saw the little holes. There's no little nails in them. Someone took them off and glued them on when they took this face off. Face doesn't even touch at the top. You can see that gap in there. A big gap. I can stick my finger in it because the boards are so warped. So I think someone had this whole front off and couldn't put it back on without putting nails. I feel like they put these 3 boards on and then nailed them on and then put the veneer on because there's not any nails showing in the front here. So when somebody took it off, they just kind of stuck it back on halfway. There's some nails there. Those are not nails. That's some of the overspray where it used to be closer, and it was the guy put whatever finish he put on here, and it's got little sticking out places on it where it kind of made contact. So now I need to decide what to do with this. There's no, like, the bottom edge of this is curled in, as you can see, and it's supposed to have a nail down here. There's a nail hole down here. It was supposed to be attached to this big front piece, but whoever put it back together didn't, and that let it just bow up. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to secure the front piece onto this a little bit better. Always something. He didn't take it off when he sprayed it, so look at all the overspray, drippy places all over this. I got to take some steel wool to it. Just, like I said, get more and more aggravated the more I get into it, because the previous owner did things that to me are not cool. Claims to be an antique dealer. You don't do this to antiques. You don't destroy them like this. But anyway, now I'm working on the case today, so we'll see how it goes. On the bottom part of the case, I took the face off and tried to straighten it up a little bit. I took some rubbing alcohol and steel wool to this, and then I worked on the bottom part of this face. I took some rubbing alcohol and steel wool and sanded some of the runs as much as I could get. It's still not great, and then I took some of the Howard's Feed and Wax and went back over it. Some of it's back down to the natural color, which I like. I think a light face on here with the darker wood would have been pretty, but that's not an option anymore. I took the face off, tried to square it up a little bit, put it back on, and then realized why it looked so weird to me. Anybody else notice? Well, for one thing, I have 2 11s. I don't have a 9. 9, the line should be on that side, not that side. And all of these are upside down. That's why it looked weird to me, because the widest part is up at the narrowest part of the circle. See? They're supposed to point out. They point down away from the center, all of the numbers. So now I got to try to decide if I can even get these back off the way that he's glued over them and painted over them with whatever varnish stuff. I feel like that the thin material will crack. I don't know what it's made out of, but anyway, gotta love it. I've laid this top part back on, pushed it up here to the top real good and down, and put 3 screws in each side where there was just 1 screw and 1 screw that wasn't even in anything, because there was a gap and it was just in a stripped out hole. So 6 screws now holding this to the roof, and then I'll put probably 3 on each side on the back of this to hold it. So 12 screws instead of the 4 that it had. So then I'll feel a little bit better about hanging it on the wall. But this is how I've got these screws all the way in, and these other ones are going to be for my hooks. So I didn't screw them all the way in yet, because my piano wire hasn't come yet. So it will be, I have a little bit, I just don't have enough to do all of them. I have enough to do 2 of them, but not 4 of them. So I've got a wire bender. I'm going to put a little curly Q on the end of it there, and it'll go right there and up through the hole. I put the hardware back in the holes that were there, and obviously that's where it used to go because it all lines up the same. So I will get this thing reattached like it's supposed to be. At least I'll be able to take it off to carry it. I'm amazed it got home in one piece because we couldn't take it off. Enough fussing about the gentleman that I bought the clock from. I'm glad to have this clock. It's beautiful. I'm going to find a good spot to hang it and take good care of it. I ended up taking the screws back out of the top so I could take the front off and actually secure this front of the box to the box better, because there was a gap and a couple of nails, and if I'm screwing the front carving to this faceplate, I would like for this faceplate to stay on this box. So I put extra screws along these 3 boards. They had a few nails, not very many. I was able to pull the gap down so there's not as big a gap in here. These boards were pretty warped. And then I felt better screwing this back onto this because I felt like that would stay on that. So it's all back. I've got to make the little wire hangers. And I've got this clock to use for an example. And it looks tiny compared to that one, but just for perspective, this one is almost 2 feet. This Hunter's Cuckoo. So here's the hangers that go on the top. They used a nail. I don't feel any slot in there, so it's not a screw, but it's just a wire with a little bend in the end and an eye hook up here, and the same on the other side. And they go opposite directions to hold the roof. And then you'll notice when you take it off, there's also 2 little wire pins right here. These are the kind of little pins that they would put in the back of the clock to poke into the wall and keep it from rocking back and forth when you wound it. And these are missing off the front of mine, but there are holes where they should be, and there are so big. There are little holes that have been poked in it from it having those little things. So I will put those back also. And it's nice to get an antique that somebody hasn't screwed up. You know, like I really enjoy this one. And I'm going to enjoy this one when I get it back on the wall and I get done messing with it.